The mission. Nobody wanted the ship. Zarnok's wrath floated quietly above the dangerous alien world below. Inside, the crew of mixed alien species gathered in the command hall. They were laughing. Not because something funny had happened, but because someone had just been picked for a mission no one wanted. That someone was the human. His name was Jack, a quiet man with calm eyes and rough hands. He had come to the galactic fleet only 6 months ago, and most aliens thought he was weak. He wasn't the tallest. He didn't have sharp claws or strong horns. He didn't growl or fight like the others. So when the mission to explore the jungle of planet X-31 was announced, a place where no scout had returned alive, they chose Jack. Let the human try, sneered Commander Grull, a thick-skinned Volron with 6 arms. If he survives, maybe, we'll take him seriously. Jack stood still as the crew laughed. He didn't fight. He didn't argue. He just nodded and took the mission file from the command screen. Take a scanner, a light blade, and a tracker, Grull ordered. That's all you'll need, before you're eaten. Jack didn't reply. He only checked his gear quietly and prepared his pack. Around him, aliens whispered jokes and bets on how many minutes he would survive. Nobody expected him to return. The shuttle landed at dawn. Fog covered the alien jungle like a wet blanket. The air was thick and humid. Strange, bird-like creatures screeched in the trees. The ground moved with crawling bugs and glowing plants. The forest was alive and dangerous. Jack stepped out alone. No backup, no drones. Just a human on foot. He adjusted the scanner on his wrist and marked his path through the dense trees. His heart was steady. Every few steps he stopped to listen. Something moved through the trees, something big. The file called it Specimen X-12, but the crew simply called it the Beast. No images existed, only recordings of screams and broken gear. Whatever it was, it killed every scouting party that went looking. As Jack walked deeper into the jungle, he noticed signs of something watching him. Footprints larger than his chest. Trees scratched with claws and bones half buried in moss. The scanner beeped. Something was close. He climbed a ridge and paused. In the valley below, the trees had been flattened in a wide circle. At the center was a black cave. He zoomed in with his lens. Bones. So many bones. Jack didn't panic. He sat quietly and opened a small container from his pack. Inside was a sealed meat ration, human-made seasoned jerky. He tore a piece and laid it gently on a flat rock outside the cave entrance. Then he stepped back and waited. For 10 minutes, nothing happened. The jungle grew quiet. No birds, no bugs, just silence. Then, a growl. The leaves rustled. Something massive moved from within the cave. A shadow appeared, low, wide, with glowing yellow eyes. It sniffed the air and stepped forward. Jack didn't move. The creature was larger than any land animal on Earth. Its body was covered in thick gray fur, legs like tree trunks, and sharp fangs shining with old blood. Its eyes met Jack's. Another growl. It stepped toward the meat, sniffed, took it in one bite, chewed, then looked back at Jack. This was the moment. If the beast attacked, Jack had no escape. But instead, it sat. It sat and stared at him. Jack slowly pulled out another piece of jerky. He tossed it gently toward the beast. It caught it in midair. Something strange happened. The beast made a soft noise. Not a growl, but almost a purr. Jack smiled. "Hey, big guy," he whispered. "You're not what they think you are." "Are you?" The beast tilted its head. Jack sat down too. Not close, just enough to show he wasn't a threat. Hours passed and the beast didn't leave. It stayed near the cave entrance, eyes on him. Jack kept feeding it small pieces. No sudden moves, just calm presence. That night, Jack didn't build a fire. He stayed awake, watching the stars between the tree branches. The beast stayed, curled near the cave but always keeping one eye on him. Back on the ship, the crew waited for news. The tracker still blinked. "He's still alive?" Grull frowned. "Impossible. The jungle must have eaten the tracker. But Jack was alive, and he wasn't running. He was learning. The mission nobody wanted had become something no one expected. A bond was forming, and the galaxy would never be the same. The first encounter, Jack didn't sleep much that night. Not because he was scared, but because the creature across from him wasn't acting like a killer. It stayed close, resting outside its cave, never taking its glowing yellow eyes off him. The galaxy had feared this beast for decades. But now, Jack could feel it wasn't hate in those eyes. It was curiosity. At sunrise, fog still hugged the trees. The air was cold and wet. Jack stretched quietly and stood up. He kept his hands open, showing no threat. Then he gently placed another piece of jerky on the ground. The beast rose. Its giant paws made no sound as it moved closer. Jack stayed still. The beast sniffed the air, then the jerky, and slowly, for the first time, came within 2 meters of him. Jack didn't move. He just whispered, "Good morning, big guy." The beast lowered its head and ate the meat. Then, to Jack's shock, it sniffed him. Its wet nose touched his arm. Its breath was warm. For a second, Jack thought it would bite, but instead, the beast gave a small grunt. Then it turned and walked toward the trees. Jack watched carefully. Then, something even stranger happened. The beast stopped, looked back, and made a short sound as if calling him. "Are you asking me to follow?" It grunted again. Jack picked up his gear and followed, moving carefully. Not like a hunter, not like prey, just a guest. They walked through thick jungle. Strange, glowing bugs floated past them. The beast moved with grace, stepping over roots and vines like it had done it 1,000 times. Jack followed its trail, into a part of the forest that wasn't marked on any map. After an hour, they reached a strange clearing. There were carvings on the trees, symbols Jack couldn't read. Broken stone pieces lay in a circle, and in the center was an old alien statue covered in moss. It looked like a creature with 4 arms and long horns, nothing like the beast beside him. But Jack noticed something else. Bones. Not human. Not alien soldiers, but beast bones, smaller ones, young ones. "This was your family, wasn't it?" Jack said softly. The beast looked at him and let out a low, sad moan. Jack's heart tightened. "Are you the last one?" The beast didn't answer, but it didn't need to. Jack understood. This monster, the one aliens feared, hadn't been attacking for fun. It was protecting this sacred place, its home, its family's memory. Suddenly, the scanner on Jack's wrist beeped. Movement. Multiple signals. Jack ducked and activated the stealth view. 3 red dots showed up nearby. Alien hunters, the same crew who had sent him here to die. He looked at the beast. It was growling now, sensing something was wrong. Jack whispered, "They're coming, and they're not friendly." The beast growled louder, stepping protectively in front of Jack. The same beast that was once feared across the galaxy was now guarding a human. The bushes rustled, a flash of metal. Then a voice crackled through the air. "Target locked, prepare tranquilizers." Jack grabbed the beast's fur and whispered, "No, don't fight, they'll kill you." But the beast snarled, stepping forward. A dart flew, through the air, and Jack caught it mid-air. "Stop!" Jack shouted. The hunters appeared, 3 armored aliens, shocked to see him alive. "Jack, how are you still alive?" Jack stood in front of the beast. "You said this creature was a mindless killer." "You were wrong." The lead hunter aimed again. "That thing is dangerous." "No," Jack said firmly. "That thing is my friend." The hunters looked confused, even scared. This wasn't what they expected. The beast stepped beside Jack and let out a deep growl, but didn't attack. It stood calmly, almost proudly, as if it understood. Jack looked at the hunters. "You want glory? You want to kill the last of its kind? Just for fame?" Silence. Jack added, "Or do you want to witness something the galaxy has never seen?" The beast gently pressed its head against Jack's shoulder. The hunters lowered their weapons. One whispered, "Impossible." Another muttered, "He tamed it?" Jack smiled slightly. "No, I didn't tame it. I earned its trust." And with that, the beast and the human turned, walking back into the jungle, side by side. The legend of the monster was about to change forever. Fire in the jungle smoke was the first sign. Jack smelled it before he saw it. A bitter, sharp scent that didn't belong in the damp jungle. He looked up. Black clouds floated low through the trees. The air grew hotter. The birds were gone. Beside him, the beast, whom Jack now called Brutus, lifted its nose and growled. It sensed danger, too. They were no longer alone. Jack climbed a low ridge and looked down into the valley. His eyes narrowed. A group of alien soldiers was setting fire to the forest, on purpose. Flames spread quickly, licking trees, burning roots, choking the air with smoke. They were flushing something out. Jack's heart sank. They weren't just here for a mission. They were here to kill Brutus. "They're burning your home," Jack whispered. Brutus let out a low growl, his muscles tense, his fur glowing red under the flickering firelight. Jack grabbed his scanner. The alien signals weren't the same as the earlier hunters. These were elite soldiers, armed, armored, and moving in a wide pattern. "They think I'm dead," Jack muttered. "But they still want proof this beast doesn't exist." Suddenly, an explosion rocked the ground nearby. Trees fell. Brutus growled loudly, stepping in front of Jack. A drone zipped overhead, scanning the area. It spotted them. Jack dove into a pit as the drone fired a shock blast. Brutus took the hit instead, roaring, in pain but not falling. "No!" Jack shouted. "Run!" But Brutus didn't run. He charged. The drone tried to fly higher, but Brutus leapt, straight up, smashing the metal bird with a swing of his claw. It exploded in midair. Brutus landed with a heavy thud, panting, smoke rising from his back. Jack crawled out and ran to him. "Are you okay?" Brutus gave a low grunt and nudged him forward. They had to move. Now. But the fire was spreading. Fast. Jack led Brutus toward the river he remembered from the scan maps. If they could reach it, they'd have a chance. But the soldiers were closing in. He heard their radios. "Target sighted. Engage at will. Burn everything." Brutus limped slightly but kept going. Jack supported his side, one arm around the beast's thick shoulder. Suddenly, a soldier stepped out in front of them, helmet glowing, rifle raised. He didn't hesitate. He fired. Jack shoved Brutus aside and took the blast in his own chest. Pain exploded in his ribs. He hit the ground hard. The world spun. His vision blurred. The soldier laughed, walking closer. "Human trash. You think you can protect that thing?" Brutus roared. A sound of ancient fury. It was no longer just defending territory. It was defending Jack. The beast lunged. The soldier tried to shoot again, but Brutus smashed into him like a landslide. His armor crumpled. His scream was short. Jack gasped for air. He could barely move. Brutus returned, nudging him gently, his glowing eyes full of worry. He licked Jack's face once, rough but caring. Jack coughed and whispered, "You saved me." The fire was closer now. Trees cracked and fell. They had only minutes before the whole jungle turned into ash. Brutus picked Jack up in his mouth gently like a mother carrying her cub. Then he ran, through flames, through smoke, through falling branches and broken roots. At the last moment he leapt from a burning cliff, straight into the rushing river below. The cold water shocked Jack back to full consciousness. He clung to Brutus's fur as they floated downstream, away from fire, away from death. They drifted in silence. After a long time, Brutus pulled Jack onto a muddy riverbank. Jack lay on his back, coughing and laughing at the same time. "Okay," he said. "I get it now." He looked at Brutus. "You're not just smart. You're loyal. You're brave." Brutus tilted his head. "You're not a monster. You're family." The beast sat beside him, silent, breathing heavily. In the distance, the fire still burned, but Jack and Brutus had survived it together. Meanwhile, back on the ship, Commander Gruel stared at the latest drone footage. One blurry image, just one, showed Jack and the beast escaping into the river. His eyes widened. His jaw dropped. He survived? Another alien gasped. The beast didn't kill him? No, Gruel whispered. It protected him. The room went silent. And for the first time, they began to fear the human, not the monster. Understanding the beast, the river carried Jack and Brutus far away from the burning jungle. The sky above was now a soft shade of green, the clouds heavy with rain. Jack lay on a dry patch under a rocky ledge, his chest wrapped with plant fiber and healing foam from his medkit. Brutus sat nearby, half hidden in the shadows, watching over him like a silent protector. Jack couldn't stop staring at the creature. Not with fear, but with wonder. How had the galaxy gotten it so wrong? Everyone called Brutus a monster, a killer. But this creature had carried him, saved him, and even now, protected him without needing a command. Something deeper was going on. And Jack wanted to know what. He pulled out his damaged scanner. The screen blinked weakly, but it still had a DNA reader and an old alien language translator. "Let's see what makes you special," Jack whispered. He held the scanner close to Brutus's thick neck. The device beeped, blinked, and processed. Jack waited. Then, the screen flashed a strange symbol, an ancient code not used in over 1,000 years. Genetic match. Ancient Sentinel program. Specimen type Alpha 0. Jack's eyes widened. "You're not just an animal, you were made by someone." Brutus growled softly and tilted his head. Jack looked back at the screen. The old data files showed that Brutus's species were engineered guardians, once used by a forgotten race known as the Solari, the original builders of the forest temples and stone ruins. These beasts were not wild. They were designed to bond with a single partner. "A guardian," Jack breathed. "You're not meant to be alone. You were waiting for someone." Brutus let out a long, low sound. It was neither sad nor happy. It was deep, as if something old inside him had been awakened. Jack stood slowly, painfully. I think you were made for this. Not just to fight, but to understand, to connect." He reached out, slowly placing his hand on Brutus's chest. The beast didn't move. A soft glow lit up under its fur like golden veins, forming strange patterns that moved under the skin. Jack stepped back, stunned. His scanner flashed again. Sentinel link initiated. Human compatibility, 87%. Suddenly, Jack could feel something, not just in his head, but deep inside. A wave of emotions, not words, not thoughts, but memories. Pain, loneliness, fire, running, watching everyone he cared for die. Then, peace, a fire in the dark, a quiet voice, kindness. It wasn't Jack's memory, it was Brutus's. Jack fell to his knees. "You've been alone for so long." Brutus stepped forward and gently pressed his forehead to Jack's. The bond was now complete. They weren't just allies, they were linked. Meanwhile, back on the alien base orbiting above, Commander Gruel stared at the new data spike. A strange signal had activated from the jungle. Something old. Something not seen in galactic history. "What is this?" he growled. The science officer looked pale. "It's a sentinel beacon, ancient Solari tech, long thought destroyed." Gruel's eyes narrowed. "And the human triggered it?" "Yes, and according to the signal, and he bonded with it." Gruel slammed his fist down. "Send a full extraction unit now." "But Commander, I want that creature. I want the human. Alive if possible. Dead if necessary. No one else must know." Back in the jungle, Jack and Brutus stood near an old ruin. The stone glowed now. The beacon pulse had awakened the forest. Birds returned. Flowers bloomed faster. The jungle was healing. I don't think you were the last of your kind, Jack said. I think they were all silenced, hidden, lost. Brutus looked at him, then at the trees. Maybe we can find them. But Jack knew time was short. Now that the signal was active, others would come, not just hunters, the entire galaxy. He touched the glowing pillar again. It responded to his hand like it had been waiting for years. This wasn't an accident, Jack whispered. We met for a reason. Thunder rolled in the distance. Ships were coming, but Jack wasn't afraid. For the first time, he understood. The beast. And now the beast understood him. The trapped Brutus was calm. Too calm. That's how Jack knew something was wrong. The jungle was silent again. No bird sounds, no insect hum. The leaves didn't rustle. Even the wind seemed to hold its breath. Jack stepped closer to his beast friend and whispered, "They're near, aren't they?" Brutus didn't move. He just stared toward the trees, muscles tense, ears twitching. Then, out of nowhere, snap! A red energy net exploded from above, falling fast. Jack yelled, "Move!" Brutus leapt aside, but Jack wasn't fast enough. The net hit him, shocking him with an electric burst. He collapsed, muscles locked, vision fading. Figures stepped out of the shadows. Tall, armored, armed, elite capture squad. Commander Groll stood at the front, smiling cruelly. "I gave you a chance to die quickly, human," he growled. "You chose to be a hero. Now you'll watch what happens to your pet." Jack couldn't move, but his eyes were wide with fear. "No, don't touch him." Gruel ignored him. He raised a hand and barked, "Bring down the containment pod." From the sky, a giant black cylinder dropped with a thunderous clang. It opened like metal jaws, ready to imprison Brutus. The beast roared, lasers fired, but Brutus moved like lightning. He charged the squad, not to kill, but to reach Jack. He grabbed the energy net with his teeth and ripped it apart. Jack gasped, finally able to breathe again. "Go!" Jack cried. "Get out of here!" But Brutus didn't leave. Instead, he stood over Jack, growling like thunder. A soldier tried to sneak up with a plasma blade. Brutus spun and knocked him through a tree. Then came the flashbang. Boom. White light. Pain. Screams. Jack couldn't hear anything for a moment. When his vision returned, he saw Brutus surrounded, bleeding, panting, but still standing. Commander Groll aimed his cannon and fired. The blast hit Brutus in the side, sending him crashing to the ground. Jack screamed, crawling to him. "No, no, please, he saved me." Groll stood over them both. "He's just a beast, and you're just a man." Jack looked up, bloody and broken, but something in his eyes had changed. "You don't get it," he said softly. Groll laughed. "Get what?" Jack pulled out the ancient beacon crystal from his pocket, the one that awakened Brutus. He pressed it against Brutus's chest. Sentinel link stabilized. A deep humming began to rise from the earth. Vines shook, rocks glowed, and then the ground cracked open. Everyone froze. From the earth, stone roots emerged, wrapping around Gruel's legs. The trees came alive. The jungle answered the beacon's call. Then Brutus stood again, eyes glowing with ancient fire. He wasn't just a creature now, he was something more. Jack whispered, "You woke up, didn't you?" Brutus roared, not in pain, but in power. His body shimmered with golden light. The marks on his skin were now glowing runes. Sentinel Level 2, defense mode activated. Gruel tried to run, but the vines held tight. Brutus moved like a living storm. He didn't kill anyone, but he tore their weapons apart, smashed their pods, and left every soldier stunned, terrified, and alive, so they could see what he was now. Jack climbed onto Brutus's back, holding tight. The jungle opened a path for them. They didn't run. They walked through the flames and wreckage like kings returning from battle. Back on the alien ship, the science officers watched in horror. activated the full Sentinel protocol. He bonded completely with the beast. No, the tech whispered, staring at the screen. He didn't tame it. It chose him. Later that night, deep in the safe part of the jungle, Jack cleaned Brutus's wounds. The beast was tired but peaceful. The glow on his skin faded to soft blue. You held back, Jack said, patting his thick fur. You could have crushed them all, but you didn't. Brutus gave a soft grunt, closing his eyes. You're better than they'll ever understand. Jack sat by his side and looked up at the stars. They tried to trap you, he said. But they only freed something greater. He smiled. You're not a beast anymore. You're a legend now. Returned to base, the docking bay was silent. Not the usual silence of machines resting. This was shock silence, like the breath of the entire ship had been stolen. The massive doors of Zarnox, Wrath hissed open. The crew waited in tense formation, expecting a body, or a burnt uniform, or at best a wounded man dragged in by a drone. What they got was Jack. Walking. Alive. And beside him, padding slowly with heavy, echoing steps, was the monster they had called unkillable. Brutus. No cage, no chains, no fear. Just the two of them side by side. Gasps broke through the silence. One alien dropped his cup. Another stepped back instinctively, bumping into a wall. Brutus didn't growl. He didn't roar. He simply walked like he belonged. There in Jack, he held his head high, his face calm. Commander Grohl stood at the top of the deck, frozen. He couldn't believe what he was seeing. You, Grohl said, eyes wide. You were supposed to die. Jack stopped at the center of the bay and looked up. You sent me to die, he replied. But I learned something instead. He turned and placed a hand on Brutus's side. This creature you all feared, he's not your enemy. He's the last of an ancient guardian race. He is intelligent. He is loyal. And most of all, he chose me. A ripple moved through the crowd. Grohl stepped forward, trying to regain control. That thing is dangerous. Jack didn't flinch. He protected me. He saved your men. He could have destroyed all of us, but he didn't. You're only afraid because he didn't choose you. The science officers stepped out, whispering among themselves. We detected an ancient beacon activation, one said aloud. It hasn't been seen in over 2,000 years. Another nodded. He has bonded with the Sentinel. The signal is real. Grohl's face turned red. I will not allow a human and a beast to rewrite our protocol. You don't have to allow it, Jack interrupted. It's already happened. He held up the beacon crystal. It glowed softly in his hand. Sentinel link confirmed. Human, primary partner, guardian, active. Brutus let out a soft growl, just enough to quiet the room. The senior officer of the Galactic Council, who had been silently observing from the back, finally stepped forward. An old alien with silver blue skin and wise, tired eyes. I've read about this, he said. The Solari used sentinels to protect the balance between nature and civilization. They were never meant to be weapons. He looked at Jack. But somehow, one survived. And it chose a human. The room was dead silent. Then the elder alien spoke again. We must respect the bond. He looked at Gruel coldly. And you will answer for sending a man to die. Guards surrounded Gruel. He tried to resist, but no one was listening to him anymore. Jack stood quietly as they dragged the commander away. He didn't smile. He didn't gloat. He just looked at Brutus and nodded once. Later that evening, in the observation deck, Jack stood looking out at the stars. Brutus sat behind him like a silent shadow. The stars were brighter here, and now Jack felt them in a new way. He wasn't just a man anymore, he was part of something old, something powerful. A voice came through the door. May I enter? It was the elder alien from earlier. Jack nodded. You changed everything, the elder said. All our stories said the Sentinels were extinct, but you didn't just find one. You awakened it. Jack turned to face him. I didn't awaken him. He was always awake, just waiting for someone to see him. The elder smiled. You've reminded us what we forgot. He handed Jack a datapad. Official orders. You're being promoted to Ambassador-class Explorer. You and your Sentinel. Jack took the pad and glanced at Brutus. We accept. The elder left with a bow. Jack walked over and sat beside Brutus, resting his head on the beast's shoulder. They still don't understand what you really are, he said. But they will. He looked out into space. Because we're not done yet. Not even close. From pet to legend, it started with a child. A young alien girl was trapped under a collapsed walkway on the outer ring of Station Arcaris, one of the busiest trade hubs in the galaxy. Fire alarms screamed, smoke filled the air, people ran, but the child couldn't move. The steel beam was too heavy. Her cries echoed in the chaos. Then, the floor shook. Not from fire, not from explosion, from footsteps. Everyone froze as a massive shadow stepped through the smoke. Not a rescue bot, not a soldier, a beast, and riding on its back was a human. Gasps filled the air. Brutus roared once, not in anger, but to clear a path. People obeyed. The human, Jack, jumped down and sprinted to the beam. He tried to lift it, but it wouldn't budge. Brutus moved beside him. No words were spoken. Jack simply nodded. Brutus placed one giant paw beneath the beam and, with a deep growl and a slow push, lifted it just enough. Jack pulled the girl out, wrapping her in his coat. Cheers exploded. But this wasn't just a rescue. It was the moment the galaxy changed forever. Across news streams, billions watched the footage. The monster saved her. He's not a pet. He's a sentinel. And the human? He's the one who bonded with a myth. In one day, Jack and Brutus went from whispers in the shadows to legends in the stars. Weeks passed. Jack was no longer a simple explorer. He now wore the black and silver badge of the Sentinel Envoy, the first human to ever carry it. His mission, not war, not control, but reconnection. Together, he and Brutus traveled from forgotten planets to ancient ruins, reawakening long-sleeping Solari beacons buried under dirt, dust, and time. Each time a beacon lit up, the planet healed a little. Plants bloomed, wildlife returned. Energy flowed again, but something else happened too. Other creatures began to appear, one by one. Other sentinels awakened. Some were smaller, some were winged, some had shells like tanks. But they all shared one thing in common. They responded to Jack, not because he was special, but because he treated them as equals. At a galaxy-wide council event, Jack stood on a floating stage above billions watching live from every system. Brutus stood at his side, armor now grown naturally over his shoulders from ancient sentinel biotech, glowing softly with green and gold. Jack took the mic. When I first met Brutus, he said, I thought he would kill me. He paused. I didn't fight him. I fed him. I listened. Everyone told me he was a monster, but he showed me loyalty, pain, memory. He looked out at the crowd. And then I realized the truth. You weren't afraid of him because he was dangerous. You were afraid because he didn't need your orders. You called him a beast, a pet, a weapon, but you never once tried to ask what he wanted. Jack pointed behind him to Brutus, who bowed his massive head. He didn't want war, he didn't want revenge, he just wanted to be seen. The audience went silent. Then the elder Siluri scholar stood and declared, The human has restored what was lost. The sentinel bond lives, again. Let his name be recorded in the legacy codes. Let the guardian be honored with full sentient status, Brutus roared. A deep, powerful sound that made the stars themselves seem to tremble, and the galaxy roared back. Later that night, aboard their ship, Jack sat beside Brutus watching distant planets drift past. You know, Jack said, patting. His friend sighed. They'll write stories about you. Brutus grunted softly. Jack chuckled. They'll probably say I tamed you. The beast growled low, clearly annoyed. Jack laughed harder. Yeah, I'll fix that. He looked up at the stars, so what now? Brutus stood and padded over to the console. With one large claw, he tapped a blinking map. an uncharted sector glowing faintly. Jack blinked. You want to go there? Brutus snorted. Jack smiled. All right then. He pressed the button. Course set. Unknown Region 9. Beacon signature. Detected. The engines hummed. Stars stretched. And just before the ship jumped, Jack whispered one final line. Let's go find the rest of your family. Legend.